Hello there, and welcome to the first meetings of Physio Matters First Step and the European Network of Physiotherapy in Higher Education, otherwise known as ENFI. My name's Dara. I am a physiotherapist working out of the UK, up in West Yorkshire in England, and I'm one of the members of Physio Matters First Steps.
Hi, I'm also a member of the Physio Matters First Steps team. I'm also a qualified therapist. I've been working for just over a year, and I work out of the south of the UK.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo. I am 25 years old. I am a last year student of physiotherapy in the Netherlands, also a member of ENFI since about 2.5 years now.
Hello, my name is Arthur. I'm a 22-year-old French student of physiotherapy student. I'm in my second year, so I still have 2 years left before being graduated. Nice. And I'm part of the ENFI also.
And just to kind of explain now within what is Physio Matters First Step and what is ENFI. So Carol, Physio Matters First Steps, kind of what does it entail? And maybe as well what you've got from it so far.
So Physio Matters First Steps is a group of student physios and relatively newly qualified, up to kind of 3 years post-qualified physios or sports rehab or any of those kind of allied professions, really. A group that kind of got together to try and help ease that transition between being a student and being a newly qualified therapist.
And Lorenzo, can you explain kind of what ENFI is, what you're involved with, and kind of what you've obviously got from it as well?
Of course. ENFI is a European network that is that has as a focal point to close the gaps between physiotherapy and higher education in Europe. And what they do is they organize seminars twice a year. One is a working seminar and one is a more theoretical lecture-based seminar where the discussion is more on where do we go. And then in the working seminar, they work on the projects discussed in the theoretical seminar.
We both come together because we're obviously, the two projects are interested in education. And today's discussion is just going to talk about different ways that physiotherapy is taught at university within different countries around the UK or around Europe, really. How do you feel the course prepares you for qualified life? So this will be interesting in regards, obviously myself and Carol, we're two qualified physios, and then Arthur, Lorenzo, two student physios. So it's kind of the perspective of both, really. So Carol, how do you find that the course that you had or within physio prepared you for qualified life?
I think it definitely taught me the basics. It definitely gave me the stepping stones. But I think if anything, the last year and a bit as a qualified physio has taught me that half the time you think you're prepared and you're probably not. As I'm sure even on placement, I think back to a student, they're not the textbook, they're not the case studies, they're not the nice linear process that we like to think we're all going to treat. And there's always, even when you're still learning, there's always a patient who comes and throws the spanner in the works. So I think our courses do prepare us, and they, in the UK especially, they definitely prepare you for working in the NHS because they're so NHS centric. But at the same time, they don't prepare you in the fact that patients are patients, people are people, and there'll always be something to surprise you.
Brilliant. No, I definitely agree with that. Basics are kind of nailed down, but nothing prepares you for the real life. And Lorenzo, again, how do you feel the course prepares you for qualified life, or maybe not prepares you for qualified life?
I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. I'll be honest. It's for us a step from, well, for me at least, a step from theory to practice it's a whole other world. And as well as they try and put the basics in you, the second you get into the field, like Carol said, there's always something to surprise you. So yeah, no, there's nothing really to add for me.
Arthur, what about yourself?
Well, my only point of view is the placements, right? Because it's going to be there that I'm gonna notice the difference. But so at first I feel like I'm kind of lost and that it doesn't apply really well, etc. But at a certain point in the placement, like you get used to it. And something that I noticed is that keep getting information while working, right? Like still getting a continuous information. And I think that's interesting because that might mean that I will do it in the qualified life and still be like curious about what's going on.
Again, kind of echoing what we're saying, and a little bit different in regards to obviously talking about when you're qualified, and then kind of still being on top of the research and whatnot that you've obviously you're very much involved with as a student over there in France. And I would again kind of echo what everybody's been saying. You can prepare as best you can. You think you have it, and then something walks through the door, and you've everything you learn is just it's wiped, and there's a whole other ball game out there. And I think that's going to be the way in for a long time, really. The more you know, the more you learn, the less you know. That's a kind of a common one out there as well.
Would you mind if I add something? Because I feel like I have to say a small thing in defense of my course. Because as I said earlier, the problem-based learning does prepare us for that. I do find, listening to you guys, I do feel like that has given us a bit of a leg up, because we're used to dealing with not knowing what's coming through the door, because we started learning from cases and quite complex cases. That being said, a patient can still surprise you, but by the end of my last internship, I felt ready to go into working life.
I think you maybe reach that stage, you've done loads of learning, you've done loads of placement, and you're like, right, get me out there. I want to kind of get stuck in myself. And I think that problem-based learning really is the way forward, to be honest.
Interesting how, despite the fact all three of the course, or the kind of course styles that we've discussed between us and the three different countries, actually we all kind of feel the same way in terms of that transition. But also I find it interesting how you kind of feel like you've got a structure to what you learn. And I think for me in the UK, I felt like there was a structure to my assessment, but there maybe wasn't necessarily the same structure to my problem solving. And it sounds like the way your course is taught, actually your problem solving is probably a little bit more structured, just through the way they teach you, than necessarily mine was. And that could be me as an individual. It could be the way we teach it over here. But it's interesting to see how you feel that your problem solving's got that structure to it to help you out.
And then just this question as well, another one to pop up is, how do you feel about the preparation within degrees? How do you feel about the preparation for the socioeconomic and cultural aspects of care? So obviously out there in the real life situation, you're going to meet people that are part of different cultures, ethnicity, and whatnot. And again, how do you feel that the course prepared you for that as well? Carol?
I think from my experiences in the UK and talking to each individual person, I think it's probably quite dependent on where your placements were, which parts of the UK you were kind of situated in, because there are sort of, I would say generally in the UK, there's kind of pockets of more diverse populations than others, if Dara agrees. And I think maybe it also depends on the nature of people in your cohort, in the same way, or in your kind of school year as such, because we talk about how we practice on each other so often as healthy people, but actually if everyone in your cohort has a similar sort of cultural or societal kind of view at the world, you kind of just accept that to be the norm between each other. Whereas, you know, I was quite lucky in the fact that our master's program in my particular physio school had a couple of Canadians and a couple of people from Hong Kong. So actually I kind of was able to ask those questions in a classroom environment and kind of say, oh, actually, what is socially acceptable? Is it socially acceptable to touch you? Is it socially acceptable to do those things? But then again, I would say that maybe those students come over to learn in the UK because their cultures are in some ways quite similar, or they're accepting of British culture. So actually maybe that doesn't help. Maybe I'm not so aware of those cultures I'm not exposed to all the time.
And Lorenzo, same for you. How do you feel about the preparation for the socioeconomic and cultural aspects of care?
a little bit lacking, which is, and it's also part of how I said my course can improve, because we get good at the problem solving bits at the cases and the theory, but then when you get into your internships, which I guess technically is still part of your learning process, but there is a big step, because the actual patients, and here for myself, I had some different placements in different cities, and also people of different economical backgrounds. And they, in my personal experience, you need a really different way of, you need to approach them in a very different way. And I find that wasn't really touched upon in my course. And the same goes for cultural or religious differences. I would say probably mainstream, the UK and Holland are the same in our cultural and religious backgrounds, but we also have quite some diverse groups of immigrants, and that you're not really prepared for. So I find that that would be an area of improvement for sure.
Arthur, yourself, how do you feel within France? How do you feel prepared for the kind of socioeconomic and cultural aspects of care?
In theory, it started a little time ago. Like, it wasn't much really an interest for I guess the teachers back in time, but now it starts to be quite good. The only thing I could maybe like critique is that they only look at the socioeconomic and cultural aspect for like the first meeting with the patient, right? Only for like the interrogation part, and see how it can be linked to a possible pathology. But afterwards, I guess the consideration kind of fade. Nevertheless, the social values in France is kind of important, and because like healthcare is national and physiotherapy is free, like they pay you back. It leads to a more global population, I guess, and that is quite interesting. Yeah, sometimes it feels like a psychological aspect of the like the BPS is neglected and only put in a scientific purpose, as we have observed that these people have more issues with that, and still in like a very scientific approach. But yeah, I would be interested in also maybe some more psychological aspect of the BPS.
I think talking about the people that we see within different socioeconomic status or whatever, NHS is obviously it's a healthcare system for everyone. So you pay national insurance, which goes towards the NHS, and it's healthcare for everyone, no questions asked. So you could have someone who's quite in middle class, you could have someone in working class. You could have someone that just newly came to the country and within a settled status or whatever could be treating. So it definitely gives you that variety. And also for myself, I've found, I studied at the University of Bradford. Bradford's a huge multicultural city within the UK. And also I work within Bradford Teaching Hospitals, which again, obviously within that city. I felt as the degree, we did touch on this a little, but whenever I started working, it was a completely different ball game. A lot of my patients would be through interpreter. Interpreters would come in and we would do the session with the three of us. Languages that I would be physio would be carried out in would be Urdu, Punjabi, Slovak, Polish, loads of different languages, to be honest. And it's how these different cultures as well, kind of how they depict and how pain, the attitudes and the beliefs towards pain, and how they can be very different among the different cultures. But practice-wise, it's really development practice in regards to how I treat maybe one person compared to the other. And definitely the explanation of pain or the explanation of treatment exercise has definitely developed and changed the more that you do it. But definitely as a newly qualified physio coming out into that kind of way of working through interpretation, through interpreters, different languages, it was tough, it was challenging, especially within the time frames. But as it went on, as the year went on, it got better, throughout.
Physio degrees or educations are all slightly different. It sounds to me like ultimately all of us, and I'm sure we've talked to other people as well, all ultimately do the degree for the same reasons and want to help people. And actually, we're all in the same boat when it comes to that transition from being a student to kind of trying to make your way into qualified life and being a qualified practitioner. And I guess it's just nice to know that we're not alone in our own country or our own little sort of silo, is that actually everyone around the world, or at least across Europe, at least Western Europe, kind of feels the same.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Even though there were differences in our courses, and quite interesting differences as well. Very cool things to think about and speak about more later. But yeah, we're still the same. We're still trying to help people, and we're still run into the same obstacles, I'd say. So yeah, it was very nice.
It's nice to get different countries and seeing how we can learn from one another. But no, great stuff, and we'll hopefully catch you in a while. In the meantime, take care, look after yourself, and we'll see you later.